This is a message that will start with a question to Antifa specifically, but to all hardline wannabe communists. You do realize that no pseudo-socialist, elite, absolute authoritarian government, revolutionary, communist regime that has ever succeeded in implanting itself as the governing body of a people has not failed to produce a purge. Of course you do. And of course you also know that such purges always start at the top. Can't have those political rivals around to cause trouble. Assuredly, you're also aware it won't stop there. The intellectuals, that means you college grads, dissidents, hello anarchists, activists, bye-bye feminists, and LGBTQ, etc., etc., down to the average citizen on the street. Why is this always the outcome? No one likes communism. Not the people who fought for it. It never fits with what they thought it would be. Not the people who defend it, and not the people who slave under it. You see, the purge, which never ends, must be maintained, or else the communist state falls. The USSR, Gorbachev's reforms, any of that ringing a bell? But no, you say, that's the old communism. We're going to fix it so that it works as intended. First of all, good luck with that. Every communist regime ever was going to fix what was wrong with communism. You can see how well they did, falling utterly, turning to more capitalist approaches to maintain popular control. Nextly, let's have a few examples of communist regimes. We've got the obvious ones, the countries, the former USSR, Cuba, China, Korea, Vietnam, Cambodia. They obviously are doing things wrong, so you can't look to them for examples. What about the hippie communes, all of which have failed? They obviously did something wrong, so you can't look to them for examples. I wonder exactly how you intend to fix it. Maybe you might enlighten us with some actual information on how you intend on improving communism. Who knows? By an off chance, we might actually go for it. Don't count on it, but it's always possible. Also, who said it wasn't working as intended? But let's, for argument's sake, in this particular moment, pretend like your miraculous transfiguration of communism can actually happen. Here's a list of things you should stop using now to show solidarity with your own cause. Plus, discontinuing use of these things will help you deal with the shock of their absence under your new government. Let's start with the biggie, the world-crushing item that you will not have under communism and that you should get rid of now so that you are acclimated to the change. The Internet. That's right, the world's largest information repository. You don't get that under communism. You might learn something that you're not supposed to know. While we're on the Internet, throw away your cell phone. That's right, you get no cell phone. All those nifty little features, all those games and apps and social connections to social media. Not only will you not have the Internet, there won't be any social media. There won't be any games to play because that will take away from your productivity. Remember, the product of your productivity belongs to the state. If you're not being productive, well, something must be done about you. On the off chance that you might need the Internet or the cell phone, you'll get some nicely watered down, propagandistic version of either one. The cell phone, of course, you'll be required to carry on you at all times just to be sure where you're at and what you're using it for. Talking about cell phones and tracking, you don't get GPS. Not that you'll need GPS because you won't be able to travel. That's right. If you must go someplace, then you must go through a committee. Because again, if you're not where you're supposed to be, you can't be very productive. If you need to be someplace to be productive, well, you might get to go there. But you won't need the GPS to get there. The roads will be clearly marked and equipped with checkpoints where a friendly soldier will gladly disappear you if you are out of place. If you really see a need to know where you're going, then some inaccurate maps will be available for a price in the local drugstore. Talking about the internet and cell phones and traveling to do things such as attend meetings or to lecture in some educational setting, you will also be subject to the state's idea of what free speech is. I know, hate speech, terrible, terrible, can't have it, it's not free speech. Well, I'm sorry to say, your rules for governing speech won't be yours. A committee will be in charge of that, and I can almost assure you, you won't be a member of it. But you will have to follow its rules. They'll make sure of it. Thanks to the wonderful age of technology, we can now do what former communist countries couldn't do. You can be monitored 24/7. I hate to bring up popular visualization to make this point, and it doesn't really matter if it's Big Brother or Big Sister, you'll have one. Always. Everywhere. Suffice it to say, with my earlier point about gaming and travel and productivity, I hope you fondly remember your days of clubbing, I believe it's called. No more of that. Along with that, however, is another little distraction that you won't have. Free and open sexual relations. That's right. You won't be free to spend your time when you're not working, obviously, since your productivity is now state-owned, to go about finding whomever you wish to take as a partner for this moment or lifetime. Furthermore, the likelihood of your sophisticated gender-bending relationships with persons other than reproductive partners will be highly curtailed. I can assure you of this because your children, just like you, are property of the state. That's right, you will be property of the state because your productivity is a property of the state. Your children will also be property of the state because their future productivity belongs to the state. Oh, and I hesitate to mention this, but all that promiscuity that you're so used to and so capable of getting rid of any actual living evidence of, that's over. Because an abortion is destruction of the state's property. And when your young ones, whom you produced in your monogamous state-sanctioned relationship, which you will of course have because not being productive is anti-state. They will go to school where they will learn all sorts of new and wonderful things. They won't learn about social justice because there is no society, there's only property, and justice is what the owners of the property decide it is. They won't learn about how they should be accepting of those who have differences, or how bullying is wrong. They will learn, however, some short, brief lessons in the new rewritten history, how to best serve the state as productive members whose production is owned by the state, and of course, they will get excellent education on how to turn you in for either not being productive enough or being an enemy of the state. Once their education is done, they, like you, will be assigned a job. This labor will not be labor that they have chosen for themselves. There's no choice. Properties of the state get no choice. The labor that they are assigned may or may not involve higher education at the state's discretion. It may or may not involve manual labor at the state's discretion. If the state so chooses, your child may be transported to any location within the state's control in order for them to perform the labor which they owe the state as property of the state. They will not be given an opportunity for advancement unless the state so deems. They will not be given an opportunity to change careers unless the state so deems. The good news, however, is that everyone will have a minimum wage of $15 an hour. That is, everyone from the lowly janitor to the most skilled doctors. And about those doctors, well, they will have to serve you, because another good thing is that you will have universal health care. But of course, with this form of health care, let's hope you've made your appointment a few months or even years before you need the actual care. If you need emergency care, well, I guess there will be a nurse wherever you are located to work that you can quickly see for a bandage. And of course, as I already noted, these doctors will be making the same as a farm worker, which is what most people will be doing. It may not be the healthcare system you really want to be a part of, but it's yours, and it's free, because we have to keep the producers productive for the state, right? How about some of those amenities that you love so much? Well, you could have a car. It'll cost you about 3 times as much as any car that you could buy now, used. Hopefully your very expensive car is fuel efficient, because fuel will cost about 5 to 10 times as much as it does now. Not that you'll need it that much without the proper travel papers. Enjoy your microwave oven, your top and bottom washer and dryer, your energy efficient light bulbs, etc., etc. Well, all of these will also cost an inflated amount, an extremely inflated amount, when you can find them to purchase in the first place. Because although all production belongs to the state and all producers also belong to the state, such an arrangement usually isn't that conducive to producing in the quickest, most efficient fashion possible. But inflation may not be the only issue that you have financially, given that 50% or more of your income will be going back to the state to pay for whatever it is the state wishes to pay for. Not to worry, though, it might be possible to get some of those most needed items from the black market that will inevitably form as a result of the vacuum in products that people really want or need. This black market will do a healthy business in toilet paper or ink pens or shaving razors. Of course, again, at an inflated price. Not so inflated as to be uncompetitive with the state, but then the black market is the state, just to make sure they've got some goods on you in case you must ever disappear. And of those goods that you do get, legally or pseudo-illegally, I wouldn't keep any of them around for a rainy day. Hoarding is illegal. Oh, and while you're working, you won't be concerned about the environment. Climate change, to you, will be a thing of the past. And by the way, not only will you not be concerned about it, But your government will not also be concerned about it. Not only productivity and the producers are the property of the state, every single resource above and below the ground is also the property of the state, a profitable property which they will have. Environmentalism be damned. There is a way you could avoid all of this, of course. You could be part of the elite state. Yes, the new 1%. Except this 1% literally does have everything because they are the state. And the state owns everything from the product of your productivity to your productivity. Now, to get into this exclusive club, you must be a very, very special person. And unfortunately, there's only a limited number of spaces to fill. So few, in fact, that in any group of your rioting comrades, maybe one could get in. And of course, you must remember, those few will be whittled down to even fewer once the purges begin. I think you can do the math on how many of you will actually benefit from your new government. Now, I would like to just make a note of something for your thought processes to muddle over. This isn't 1932. I don't want to treat you like idiots, but I don't really think you realize this fact. It isn't 1932. You are not living under the Weimar Republic. There are no National Socialist organizations for you to fight here. You aren't trying to win over or intimidate voters to place you in charge of a parliament that doesn't exist anymore. You are throwing around that term that you love so much, unabashedly. I'll agree with that. You are making yourselves public nuisances, as you planned to do in the first place. I will agree with that. You are threatening people's lives needlessly for the lulz. I will agree with that. But you're doing it for no functional purpose. Trump is demonstrably not Hitler. The Republican Party is not equivalent to the National Socialist Party. No matter how you would like to imagine it to be true, no agenda has been presented by the national government of the United States to begin, continue, or otherwise proceed with a genocidal final solution. It is true that, as far as can be discerned, Trump is not a globalist. It is true, as far as can be discerned, and there's plenty of evidence in its favor, that Trump is a capitalist. It is true, so far as you're willing to discuss the matter with anyone, that you don't agree with these two positions. That anyone who even seemingly supports anything about these two positions is your enemy. And you have made it clear that attacking your enemy, by any means necessary, is your goal. And your plan to replace what you see as the problem is communism. The one political system that, if it were in effect, would shut you down immediately. And I don't mean shut down as in disperse. I mean disappearing. I mean death in the street. I mean lifelong sentences in gulag. And your primary motivation is 1932 German political infighting. I am well aware of where you come from, where your parent organization is located, from which they get their inspiration, and the fact that your fight belongs to 85 years ago. Well, I guess that's true for everyone except for the LARPers and the LOLers. And unfortunately, when you push things to the point of a real fight, I think you're going to find that your numbers are a little bit smaller than what you really think they are. But hey, as long as you're fighting the good fight, right? Right. Addendum and appendices. 1. You're starting to really piss me off. I'm a political centrist. And now, you put me in a position where I may have to choose sides. And the sides I will have to choose from don't include you. But they do include strict conservatives and strict liberals. To that, I only have to say, fuck you. 2. To the press. I appreciate, understand, and accept that you have a right to cover any newsworthy event. But if you haven't noticed a trend, Antifa is not your friend. More and more of you will continue to get hurt if you insist on standing in the middle of the action. I am not in your position, but if I were, the advice I would give is, could you please stand back to limit the collateral damage? 3. Back to Antifa. I know that you're flushed with the glorious success that you and your comrades have achieved to bring notoriety to yourselves and your cause, if that's what you want to call it. But you should consider this one thing. You've only faced the police so far, and as much as your American comrades will be emboldened by your activities in Paris as of May the 1st, and may even consider taking on some of those activities for themselves, those kind of activities will only ensure that you won't be facing the police or the citizens. Just something to keep in mind while you're foaming at the mouth for your revolution.
Ground control to Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom.